Welcome to the program. You're watching a special edition of Arise News Hour on Democracy Day here in Nigeria, and with barely 9 months to go before the country's general elections. What has the government of President Buhari achieved? And what does it have to say about the multiple problems that continue to afflict this country? Well, I sat down with the Nigerian Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, and for the next hour, we talked about everything from the insecurity across the northeast and the middle belt to an economy still in dire straits, and to the internecine battles that are continuing to afflict the ruling APC party, plus much more. Minister, thank you very much indeed for talking to Arise News. And this interview, of course, coming on the day, May the 29th, which is Democracy Day here in Nigeria. Tell me what that means for Nigerians in real terms.
I think Nigerians have, at least a very large section of Nigerians, have come to adopt May 29th as Democracy Day. I think for the simple reason that after a long interregnum of military rule, 1966 to about 1999, with one or two short breaks, that democracy elected government was sworn in May 29, 1999. And from that date, 19 years ago, people have celebrated 29th of May as Democracy Day. And I think it is apt also because you look at this is the longest stretch of democracy, uninterrupted.
So are you fairly confident that democracy is here to stay in Nigeria, or do you count your blessings year by year?
Absolutely confident. I think with every passing year, we are deepening the institution of democracy, and I think it's very difficult to reverse that trend.
Of course, there are now barely 9 months to go until Nigeria's general elections. President Buhari, who's 75 years old and whose health is under the spotlight, has said he'll run again, even as he says he's set to sign the Not Too Young to Run bill. Isn't it time for the older generation of politicians like Mr. Buhari to let go of the reins, and that given a chance, young leaders could turn this country around?
I think as long as a person believes he has a lot more to contribute to the development of his country, I think his age should not be a barrier. And as long as he has the mental capacity and the stamina and the strength to run, I think it would be discriminatory to say because he's 75 and because he had a health challenge which he had overcome, that he should not run. I think a person should be asked not to run on something much more concrete than those grounds.
The problem is that when you get to a certain age, I hate to use the expression, but it comes across as it's all downhill from there. In other words, if he suffers a major ailment, which he admittedly said was the worst illness he'd ever suffered, people worry about that.
Well, it's fair. I think it's fair for them to worry. I work with Mr. President, and at least once in a week, I'm with him, and I'm amazed at his stamina. I'm amazed at his mental capacity. He presides over the Federal Executive Council meeting every Wednesday, and he's as alert as ever, he's as strong as ever, and with that also he has a very heavy schedule, which he has been managing since he came back. So frankly speaking, I have no reservations at all about his ability in terms of health to continue to lead this country.
Do you concur with the argument that young people are in a better position to understand the challenges of modern times and the needs of Nigerian society? Because they understand this reality better, they would actually perhaps perform better if given the opportunity to be in government.
See, there's no doubt that the younger ones can also contribute their own quota to national development. But like the proverb in Yoruba says, he says, "Ọmọdé gbọ́n, àgbà gbọ́n, Lafidali. In other words, both the young and the old have their own roles in nation building.
Yeah, but the old have been dominant. This is a political gerontocracy that you have in Nigeria.
Well, that's your view. And as you see, when I look back, frankly speaking, to history, and without, I don't want to mention names, we had young men at the end of affairs, and what did they lead us to? At times, raw talent, knowledge, without experience and maturity, is not complete. And I think as long as we have a man who has the qualities of leadership, supported by both young and old, I don't think it's a fatal flaw on the part of the party to present President Muhammadu Buhari to run again.
Okay, let's move on and talk about the other nettlesome issue in Nigeria, and that is security, and in particular the conflict between herdsmen and farmers, mostly around that middle belt region. An in-depth investigation that's just been released, conducted by the Wall Street Journal, suggests that it is becoming more deadly than the Boko Haram insurgency. Is it?
I don't agree. And I must say also that there's been a lot of misunderstanding, and I think people have not been rigorous enough in understanding the phenomenon of the crisis in the Middle Belt, especially in Benue State. I think there's been this attempt to try and look at the issue from a purely ethnic and religious prism.
I don't think that's fair, because the study reveals, purely in terms of numbers, the number of people killed in clashes between farmers and nomadic herdsmen is considerably higher than those killed by Boko Haram in the last year. I mean, since January alone, I don't mean to interrupt you there, we're looking at about 800 people killed, possibly more. I mean, is this a harbinger for a full-blown conflict? And are you concerned about it?
You see, I'm concerned about it, but unfortunately, the report is not thorough. More lives have been lost in cattle rustling in Zamfara than all the lives lost in Benue State alone. I'm not proud to say this, but that is the reality.
Nevertheless, the issue is a big problem, isn't it?
No, of course. You see, terrorism in any form, anywhere in the world, is a big issue. Now, but you see, it's important also to locate in the correct context this conflict. What we are facing today really is more of a fallout of demographic, environmental, social and economic issues. What do I mean by this? In 1963, Nigeria's population was 52 million, living within the same space as we are today, as one of fact less. Today, the same country has a population of between 180 and 190 million people. What that means in effect is that the same resources available for 52 million people about 50 years ago is not being shared by 200 million people. There are bound to be tension. Environment. The Lake Chad, we supported 35 million lives from Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Central African Republic, and Nigeria. It used to be 25,000 square kilometers in surface. It has lost 90% of that today. So there's bound to be migration west, southwest. Now, it's in that context that we should look at this conflict. And for those who are making this very facile and simplistic, judgment, you should remember that the first herdsmen-farmers clash recorded in Nigeria was 1947, and that even in 2013, the Aguatu, crisis in the same Benue State claimed more lives in one day than any other one that we have witnessed. But
Okay, beyond the herdsman-farmer clashes and the Boko Haram insurgency, which appear to dominate the headlines, Nigeria is in fact in conflict with several other groups, isn't it? I mean, you've got the Shia-dominated Islamic movement of Nigeria in the north, an assortment of militant groups in the Niger Delta, IPOB, MASOB, and all the rest of them in the southeast, Udua and others in the southwest, agitations in the Middle Belt. Many of these are separatist groups. How much support do you think these groups enjoy?
I don't know how much support they enjoy, and I'm not going to guess, but I want to make 3 points. Number one, none of these groups came to exist just when we came to power. Whether it's IPOB, whether it's the militants in the south, whether it's the Shiite group in the north, whether it is the OPC, they'd all been existing before we came.
Yeah, but you have to admit that certainly in places like the southeast and the Niger Delta, their operations, their agitations intensified since your government came into office.
Absolutely false.
Well, I mean, it's not false. The records are there.
On the contrary, the amnesty program came into being before we came, and that was as a result of the very violent, situation in the south.
Yeah, but things remained calm until you came back.
That's not correct again.
Until you came in.
That's not correct. And on the contrary, things have remained calm in the south today. Things have remained calm in the southeast today.
Yeah, but
that's largely because of the various Operation Crocodile Smile and Operation Python Dance that were put in place.
Now, in your assessment, what is fueling these groups? I mean, could it be attributed to the fact that the government, your government, the government of President Buhari, has failed to offer that vital, inspirational leadership with a national vision that's able to unite this ethnically diverse country in that vision?
Your question does not even take into cognizance the fact that all these separatist movements not only existed long before Buhari came in, but that as a matter of fact they were much more worse. And that is precisely because of certain actions we have taken, either in terms of the amnesty program or in terms of distributing infrastructural developments all over the country, running an inclusive government. That's probably precisely
I think many people would dispute your suggestion that you're running an inclusive government. In fact, one of the reasons why many groups in this country are agitating against your government is because they believe that your government is not inclusive, that your government is exclusive.
And you see, what I always ask them is this: come out with facts and figures. And we will come out and tell you this is exactly what is happening. Let me see. Number one, people even often forget that we run a federal system of government, whereby states and local government are very independent of the federal. And I look at the cabinet, for instance, and I say, every state has a representative in the cabinet.
Yeah, but the cabinet is a microcosm. It's a very tiny representation.
And I'll go to the parastatals too. And I say, I want somebody to please come out with a comprehensive analysis of who is where. And come to the civil service. Come and tell me who is where. By the time you come out, you see that there's a lot of balancing in the system. You see, it's very easy to handpick and pick out one or two issues and say, no, this imbalance. But it will be very, very incorrect say that the agitations in the country is as a result of the fact that we're not running an inclusive government.
No, but what I'm saying is that we are here we're not the ones who are agitating. We're there to observe what is going on.
I agree.
And I'm sure you, as Information Minister, see these agitations and see the premise on which people are agitating.
You see, I see the agitation and I respond to it because I know what many people probably don't know. And it's my duty to push out these facts. But more often than not, people's emotion, most times, be clouded their sense of objectivity.
Well, clearly something is fueling that emotion.
Nigeria. We are 198 million productive people with over 900,000 square kilometers of fertile land. Nigeria's banking system has emerged strong and resilient from the 2016 crisis, which has enhanced our productivity in agribusiness and manufacturing. Come, invest in Nigeria's agribusiness, manufacturing, and value-added mining. Enjoy the Central Bank of Nigeria-led initiatives in funding interventions, stabilized exchange rate, friendly capital repatriation regime, and many more. The Central Bank of Nigeria's robust monetary policy and interventions under President Buhari's administration and position the economy to target and attain a GDP growth of 6% with a strong and growing external reserves. Come, invest in Nigeria. Nigeria, ready for business.
As a fashion writer, I know how quickly trends are created and changed. In business, it's no different. To stay ahead, I needed a plan flexible enough to meet my changing communication needs. More Business 2.0 didn't just give me voice and data in one package. I got a whole lot more. With More Business, setting up my website was no problem. But I'm not just a fashion writer. I also own a home decor store before I decided to open an accessory store. With my customized More Business plan, managing my staff's communication is easy, no matter how frequently they come or they go. With 9 Mobile's new online self-service this week, I could adapt my plans to include this.
From 2,000 Naira, choose a business bundle, customize your staff's voice and data lines, and enjoy a variety of add-on business services. Dial *200 *5# now to subscribe. More Business.
There is nothing as symbolic as a door. It shuts to protect you and opens to give you much more. Everyone wants to succeed, not just count pennies. When life gets tough, I remember a few things. Difficulty and struggles are part of what life brings. Your strength comes from the support around you. A true friend believes in what you do, there to hold your hand through any weather. I found my partner, and we walked through doors together. Diamond, your bank.
In a fast-paced world, you need the ability to make everything move at your own speed. Stay ahead and not miss anything. That's why I'm a More Life Complete, which lets me call everyone in Nigeria on all networks at just 15 kobo per second. I can also call any line in the United States, Canada, UK, Germany, India, China, and Malaysia too at just 15 kobo per second. And just when you think life can't get any easier, I get 15 free minutes to call anyone in the 9 Mobile family.
Just booked your ticket to London.
Before you think I've got to compete on More Life, I also get 15 minutes free browsing to catch up on sports updates and anything online. Now that's what I call the complete package.
There is a reason Africa is called the new frontier. What was once potential is now an opportunity ready to be seized. Once revered for our resources, today's wealth lies in our people. People who build the cities that shape the future. People who know an idea in one place means business in another. A generation for whom technology means there are no borders, no boundaries. We are the new lions in a brave new world, kings of the urban jungle. And there's a bank that puts the world in our pocket and the future in our hands. UBA, Africa's global bank.
Well, let's look at the economy, because anyone coming to Nigeria can see firsthand an economy that's been severely disfigured by its dependence on one crop alone, oil, and we're not blaming your government for that. We're saying that people can see clearly that this is an economy disfigured. The latest figures suggest the economy has contracted under your watch. Growth has slowed.
I'm afraid I don't know where you get your facts from.
No, but it's
because the IMF only 2 weeks ago.
No, the IMF is a projection.
No,
the IMF is
okay.
not.
The National Bureau of Statistics came out with the figures.
The figures contracted in the first quarter of 2018.
No, sir,
it's absolutely contracted.
The record is 1.95% growth compared to the first quarter of 2017.
No. If you look at over the period.
Which period, sir?
If over the period from the beginning of 2017 to the beginning of 2018, the economy has actually contracted.
And I said, no, sir.
That's a fact.
No, sir. You see, because I have the facts and figures. And I'm saying that we came out of recession in the second quarter of 2017 with a growth of 0.95%.
Yeah, but clearly you were coming out of a recession.
Okay, and I said this, you see, and in talking about the economy, you compare quarters with quarters.
Yeah, but you also look at the entire
period. And I'm saying, sir,
and see the trend of growth.
And I'm saying that you have no figures, no facts to say that the economy has contracted. And I've said that on the contrary, our economy has improved. And the recession, we went out of recession not because of the price of oil, but because of agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and other services. The facts are there.
No, the facts are also there to show that growth has actually slowed in
and
Nigeria.
I'm just telling you.
No, I understand. Many businesses, you will admit this as well, continue to fail in this country because of a lack of vital...
Sir, you don't have the figures.
No, hold on, sir. Because of a lack of vital infrastructure such as power, for example, okay, which has not really dramatically improved.
I'm afraid you are very misinformed.
Well, it has not dramatically improved.
It has dramatically improved. When we came in, sir, we inherited 2,690 megawatts of power. Just listen, sir.
Okay.
Today we are generating 7,000 megawatts of power, distributing 5,000 against 4,000 megawatts. Sir, listen, and you know how we achieved that?
Right.
Not by fiat. Because we put in place a 701 billion naira payment assurance, guarantee to ensure that when generating companies, when they produce power, the discos have the money to buy them. The complaints was that they had the capacity to generate, but the discos were not doing well. So we put together this 701 billion naira as a payment guarantee that as long as you produce, we will pay. And that is why our power has gone dramatically from 2,690 to 7,000. Well, now, it's important because I don't know where you get your figures from, and you need to get it right. And you see, this we're not faking it because every day we release our power situation. Yes, sometimes we have constraints in distribution, but our power has improved dramatically.
The point is this.
No, you talk about infrastructure.
Right.
2, this is the only government in the history of Nigeria that has spent 2.7 trillion naira on capital, on infrastructure in the last, in the history of the country. And this is the only government that consistently for the last 2 years, we make sure that 30% of our budget is capital.
And what infrastructure is that you've actually spent it on?
Power, roads, rail.
Well, a lot of because you're
and I'll give you the figures.
Yeah,
on roads, we have constructed.
A lot of those, the rail, for example, a lot of the work started before you came in.
No,
a lot of the work on rail.
That's not correct, sir.
But that is a fact. A lot of the work on rail started. I mean, it is all right for you to take credit for seeing it to completion. But a lot of it started before you came in.
That is not correct, sir. And I'm sure. I'm quite surprised that you have done. In fact,
well, I mean,
only in April, sir, we signed a contract, an agreement with a consortium led by GE in Washington to revamp the 3,500 kilometers, railway.
Yeah, but you haven't actually done it.
Look,
no.
Sir,
I'm not talking about whether you've signed the contract.
No. You are saying that this rail.
I'm saying that a lot of that rail started under a previous government,
and I'm saying
that's a
no.
fact. That is a fact.
But I'm saying no. I'm saying, sir, and to be controverted by you, that in April this year, the Minister of Transportation was in Washington, where we formally signed an agreement with a consortium led by General Electric to revamp the 3,500 kilometer.
Yeah, but you signed a contract.
Just
that
listen.
contract
Just
has
listen.
not been executed.
Just listen. You see, listen, sir.
I am listening.
Sir, only 2 weeks ago, sir, I was on a tour with the same Minister of Transportation to Papalanto, where we reviewed the extent of work that has been going on the tour, also on the standard gauge. Only last week, I inspected the Oyo Womanshaw end of the Ibadan Expressway, which is being financed by the 100 billion naira Sukuk loan we took. This Sukuk loan, 100 billion, was taken, and each geopolitical zone was given 6.6 billion to finance critical road infrastructure. And only this month, we inaugurated a $1.3 billion Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund to ensure that all the critical roads that we embark upon would not suffer.
Right, so you've moved away from rail and you're now talking about roads. Because
exactly.
The reason I mentioned
that
is that
and I want to come back to rail.
Sure.
The rail, the rail program we inherited from the previous administration, because you see that I've refrained from talking about the previous administration, is such that the maximum speed those trains can take is 17 kilometers per hour. And that is why we had to revamp it with the contract we signed in April in Washington to ensure that this actually make 48 kilometers, and when completed, we'll be able to make about 60 kilometers.
Right, but it isn't completed yet.
You do not complete it.
No, I understand that. Work has actually begun.
It has begun. You don't complete the anywhere in 2 years.
Right, but talking about rail, there is also the rail that is supposed to link Lagos, Port Harcourt, Calabar, all those areas.
Of course, yes.
And what we're hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the Chinese firm that you awarded that contract to has been unable to raise the money to execute that contract. Is that a fact?
No. You see, at the last Executive Council meeting, there are two projects. The one is the Lagos Kano rail, which is standard gauge, and the other is the Lagos Calabar. As of today, work is going on both, negotiations going on both, and I speak to you. The Minister of Power, Works and Housing is in China, negotiating for the road side of it. It is not true that the Lagos Calabar standard gauge road has been abandoned because the Chinese cannot raise the funds. It is not correct.
Well, that's what we're told.
It's not correct.
Because there's even a big American firm that's just arrived in Nigeria that has approached the minister. They've had meetings, they've been in the press over the last few days.
I thought the minister raised that issue.
Trying to take over that contract because the Chinese have been able to. It's a $10 billion contract, unable to raise the money.
And I'm telling you that it is not true that the Chinese have reneged on that contract, or that they've said they are unable to do it. No.
Right. Well, you're the Minister of Information.
Yes.
We simply hear things and we put them to you. Yes. Somebody said that Mr. Buhari may have thought that the problem of Nigeria could be handled by maybe using a shovel to clear the debris when he came in, but that he's now realized that he actually needs an excavator to deal with Nigeria's problems. Do you agree with that, even though it's purely an analogy, but do you agree that Nigeria's problems are so monumentally that they could easily overwhelm a government like yours?
No. Yes, we have issues, we have problems, we have challenges, but we are approaching and addressing the issues with all vigor, and we have the capacity to so do. And we have not been overwhelmed one bit by any of this, whether it's infrastructure, whether it is fighting corruption, or whether it is, revamping the economy. And our records have shown that our approach is working. Foreign reserves have gone from 23 billion to 48 billion, but yet we will not celebrate this. It is on record today that our economy has truly been diversified as against what, the impression you have. We went out of recession because even under recession, agriculture and mining was doing very well. Our Anchor Barrels program today has resulted in the creation of 6 million extra rice farmers, and these farmers are spread over 34 states of the Federation. Before now, we used to import 644,000 metric tons of rice from Thailand. These are not my records. These are the records of Thailand. Today, we import only 24,000 metric tons of rice. We used to pay $5 million daily foreign exchange just for the rice bill. All that is gone today. Now, it's not by magic that we rose 24 steps in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business. It's a feat. Our stock exchange in 2017 was recorded to be one of the best 6 in the world. So we have things to say.
So we're hearing more of this now, and some people suggest that all this is aimed at boosting your chances as the elections approach.
I see. So the World Bank that ranked us now 144 from 169 is also concerned about our elections?
Well, there's also there are rankings, there are different rankings. I mean, there are rankings from different groups that don't rank you particularly well, especially when it comes to corruption, which is a cardinal point of your government. I mean, Transparency International, just recently actually, and I've got the figures here,
We are 198 million productive people with over 900,000 square kilometers of fertile land. Nigeria's banking system has emerged strong and resilient from the 2016 crisis, which has enhanced our productivity in agribusiness and manufacturing. Come, invest in Nigeria's agribusiness, manufacturing, and value-added mining. Enjoy the Central Bank of Nigeria-led initiatives in funding interventions, stabilized exchange rate, friendly capital repatriation regime, and many more. The Central Bank of Nigeria's robust monetary policy and interventions under President Buhari's administration and positioned the economy to target and attain a GDP growth of 6% with a strong and growing external reserves. Come, invest in Nigeria. Nigeria, ready for business.
As a fashion writer, I know how quickly trends are created and changed. In business, it's no different. To stay ahead, I needed a plan flexible enough to meet my changing communication needs. More Business 2.0 didn't just give me voice and data in one package. I got a whole lot more. With More Business, setting up my website was no problem. But I'm not just a fashion writer. I also own a home decor store before I decided to open an accessory store. With my customized More business plan, managing my staff's communication is easy, no matter how frequently they come or they go. With 9 Mobile's new online self-service this week, I could adapt my plans to include this.
From 2,000 Naira, choose a business bundle, customize your staff's voice and data lines, and enjoy a variety of add-on business services. Dial *200*5# now to subscribe. More business.
There is nothing as symbolic as a door. It shuts to protect you and opens to give you much more. Everyone wants to succeed, not just count pennies. When life gets tough, I remember a few things. Difficulty and struggles are part of what life brings. Your strength comes from the support around you. A true friend believes in what you do, there to hold your hand through any weather. I found my partner, and we walked through doors together.
Diamond, your bank. There's an old saying in Nigeria, a single tree cannot make a forest. At First Bank, we started from humble beginnings, and with prudent management and bold acquisitions, we have grown to meet the needs of our customers throughout Nigeria and beyond. You first, First Bank.
In a fast-paced world, you need the ability to make everything move at your own speed. Stay ahead and not miss anything. That's why I'm a More Life Complete, which lets me call everyone in Nigeria on all networks at just 15 kobo per second. You can also call any line in the United States, Canada, UK, Germany, India, China, and Malaysia too, at just 15 kobo per second. And just when you think life can't get any easier, I get 15 free minutes to call anyone in the 9 Mobile family.
Just booked your ticket to London.
Before you think I've got to compete on More Life, I also get 15 minutes free browsing to catch up on sports updates and anything online. Now that's what I call the complete package.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Then think Zenith, one of the biggest in Nigeria, with assets over $16 billion, listed among the 20 most influential brands in the world, and winner of Best Bank in Corporate Governance. The most customer-focused bank in Nigeria, a success built on 3 foundations, dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
...2018 corruption index, the perception, because that's what it is, it's an index that of perception, Nigeria's ranking fell significantly in that ranking. And that suggests that the perception is that corruption is increasing, not decreasing in Nigeria, despite efforts by your government to fight the problem. Why do you think that is the case?
Just a few days ago, the chairperson of Transparency International was here in this same office.
Yeah, we had her in our studio.
Very good. And I confronted her. And she admitted that, you see, that they use several indices. And it takes almost 3 years before you feel the effect of even some of the work you are doing. But I can say clearly here that corruption has falling dramatically in the other administration. And I'll give you the examples. We are the only government that has faithfully implemented the Treasury single account, blocking all leakages.
Absolutely. I think most people will concede.
In the process, we have raised 8.9 trillion naira through this faithful implementation of the TSA. On the contrary, a committee chaired by the governor of Gombe State just revealed that between 2010 and 2015, that 15 generating agencies failed to remit to the federal accounts 8.1 trillion naira. Now, still on corruption, this is the only government that has said that through this efficiency unit, the Ministry of Finance has been able to save this government about 20 billion every month in travels, and all kind of things. Now, we have a record to say that on the corruption under our government, it's not even, it's been driven under the table, if at all.
Yeah, but that is that's a bit of an odd thing to say, given that the perception, and I emphasize the word perception,
of course,
is that your government is targeting people in the opposition and people who are not directly linked to your government, that there are people, and I say that with reservation, I'm simply quoting what other people have said and what a lot of people on the streets, the perception, the feeling appears to be that the opposition PDP is your central target, and that anybody who has left the PDP, and most of the people in the APC, many of them at least, came from the PDP, they're not being prosecuted.
You see, I don't know why people just base...
But I'm sure you're aware of these things
I
I'm
don't know
saying.
why people base... why people make statements that they cannot support. Let them tell me one person who has left PDP for APC and his prosecution has been dropped.
No, but what I'm saying is this.
No, of course, we have that.
I will not name names because obviously that would be libelous.
No, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying they should give us one example.
No,
I'm on the same page with you.
You put a point, I need to respond to that.
I'm on the same page with you, sir.
Right.
Look, what they say that some people have joined APC from PDP. And once they join APC, they are forgiven their sins. Is that what they're saying?
No. Well, the point is not that we're not talking about people who are already under prosecution.
No, I'm talking about
or people. We're talking about people who left the PDP, perhaps in 2014, 2013, at the time when you were putting together your coalition, and joined the APC, but with dirty baggage, and none of those people have been...
And I'm saying that is not true, because I don't want to name this. I know two governors.
Have they been investigated in public?
Only they have been prosecuted. I don't know what to name names to.
We shouldn't name names.
That's why I challenge him to say, there's this guy who was in PDP and he joined APC and the investigation into corrupt practices stopped.
Right, okay.
Two, it's very important. We've been accused of targeting the PDP in our fight against corruption. I think people are just being mischievous or being very ignorant. When I released the list of looters,
I was just going to talk about that.
It was in response to a challenge by the PDP.
And how many of those people are from the APC on those looters?
Just hold on. You see, because you see, it is part of what. That's why people, make statements because they don't understand the context. The Vice President Osinbajo delivered a paper in Lagos, at which he claimed that in one day, the previous administration shared $259 million a few days to the election. And they now challenged him to name those people. And I did. So it's in that context that the looter's name was released. So not in the context of giving a comprehensive list of looters. And that is very important. They challenged the Vice President, and I responded.
Well, that's a very interesting point, and in fairness to you, that's a point that's not known to the public.
Of course, but they know.
But you're the Minister of Information.
Yes,
why aren't people hearing
I've
it?
said this several times, but of course people choose to listen to what they want to hear. That is the origin of the... We've had this latest list for a long time.
Yes, nevertheless, the list is made up of people from the opposition PDP.
Do you know what, sir?
Isn't it?
There's a proverb in my language. A man who has no wife, his in-law can never die. If you did not, for you to partake of the looting, you must have been in government. We were out of government for how many years? 16 years. So it's not by accident that the majority of people will be on that list, will be PDP people. But what I'm saying is that under our government, you do not have an immunity against prosecution simply because you are APC.
Right. Okay, let's talk about...
We are 198 million productive people with over 900,000 square kilometers of fertile land. Nigeria's banking system has emerged strong and resilient from the 2016 crisis, which has enhanced our productivity in agribusiness and manufacturing. Come, invest in Nigeria's agribusiness, manufacturing, and value-added mining. Enjoy the Central Bank of Nigeria-led initiatives in funding interventions, stabilized exchange rate, friendly capital repatriation regime, and many more. The Central Bank of Nigeria's robust monetary policy and interventions under President Buhari's administration and positioned the economy to target and attain a GDP growth of 6% with a strong and growing external reserves. Come, invest in Nigeria. Nigeria, ready for business.
In a fast-paced world, you need the ability to make everything move at your own speed. Stay ahead and not miss anything. That's why I'm a More Life Complete, which lets me call everyone in Nigeria on all networks at just 15 kobo per second. You can also call any line in the United States, Canada, UK, Germany, India, China, and Malaysia too, at just 15 kobo per second. And just when you think life can't get any easier, I get 15 free minutes to call anyone in the 9 Mobile family.
Just booked your ticket to London.
Before you think I've got to compete on More Life, I also get 15 minutes free browsing to catch up on sports updates and anything online. Now that's what I call the complete package.
Still on the subject of corruption, the president was quoted, and I say quoted because I don't have it firsthand, we got that information through the papers. The president was quoted as alleging that in the government of President Obasanjo, that $16 billion was spent on electricity with nothing to show for it. Is that a fact?
The president was quoted as saying so. Yes, he did. He said so.
So if $16 billion went amiss, are there plans to further investigate that missing and, if possible, prosecute people all the way to the President Obasanjo?
I think people have very short memory in this country because in the last 1 week, the nation has been doing a fantastic job on that particular issue, quoting reports of the various panels set up by the Yaradua administration. It was a PDP administration by the House of Reps, where the Speaker himself was also PDP. I think you should go to that report.
Yeah, but what I'm asking you a direct question. If you make an allegation, if a president makes an allegation against...
I think the president is
against the
is the president's prerogative.
No, but what I'm saying is that if he makes that, the assumption is that he has evidence to support what he's saying.
Mr. President,
if he has that evidence, why isn't he going after Obasanjo and prosecuting?
Mr. President has the prerogative to take on any investigation that he so wishes, and I think we should leave it to him.
Does that not suggest that the investigations that you conduct are targeted? In other words, that you pick and choose the ones that you want to...
Absolutely incorrect.
Well, so why isn't he following that
And
up?
I've just told you now, it's because you don't listen, unfortunately.
I am listening to you.
That
and you're very articulate. I'm listening to what you're saying. I can hear you very well.
Please go back to the report of the House of Reps under Dimeji Bankole speakership and see what was their verdict. What did they come up?
No, to be fair, Minister, you know, with all due respect, that has nothing to do with the question I asked you.
Your question, which is, will Mr. President probe Obasanjo?
Absolutely.
And I said, I don't know.
Right.
I said it's the prerogative of Mr. President to decide to probe who he wants
to. Should it be the prerogative of the president, or should it be the prerogative of the Nigerian police to take steps to prosecute someone if there is evidence against that person? I mean, what you're suggesting to us is that you're running a government where you pick and choose the people you want to prosecute, and that you, to some extent, interfere in the work of the police.
I see your logic is logic is amazing.
Well, I'm asking you a direct question.
A president
Minister.
has a priority, and he decides what is going to be his priority.
Yeah, but the police.
And I don't think, sir, that
the job of the police is to prosecute, is to pursue.
And who is stopping the police from so doing?
No. What I'm saying is that
does the police need Mr. President to direct them?
But you're suggesting that it is the preserve of the president to pick and choose, even in the case where he himself has come out to ineluctably say that this amount of money went missing.
And I said it's a matter of priority on the part of
so it's not a priority that $16 billion is missing or can't be accounted for or was misspent and he doesn't want to pursue it.
Precisely, why did he raise the issue? Because he felt that this issue had been swept under the carpet. That's why he raised the issue.
Right.
But the next step he's going to take is left to him.
Okay, let's move on because we haven't got that much time, and I really appreciate the time you've taken to talk to us. Let's talk about the crisis in the ruling party, your party, the APC. How concerned are you that the coalition that you built that managed to unseat an incumbent government in 2015 appears to be falling apart under your watch? And this is a fact. This is not speculation.
You see, I have been in political parties formation, political party for the last probably 20, 30 years. Oh, 30 years. And I do not see as strange or unusual what's happening in my party. But I can assure you that there's no cause for alarm.
Well, what it underscores is that your party does not, the same thing we talked about, this national vision that unites the Nigerian populace in that vision. Your party simply came together to unseat another political party, but there is nothing at the center to hold them together. I mean, what really is the problem in the APC? And is this dispute, if I could call it that, a worrying sign of bad things to come as Nigeria heads for elections in less than 9 months from now?
I will simply repeat my answer, that there's nothing unusual, nothing strange in anybody who's familiar with political parties in what is happening, and that there is absolutely no cause for alarm. That would be my answer.
The opposition PDP have also accused your party of clamping down on them. They said you're worried that they are trying to form a coalition to take on you. What is your response to that?
I think the PDP has run out of ideas completely. I read, you see, where are they? But not that alone. Where is it written in any constitution or in any law that you cannot prosecute people simply because elections are approaching? Or I come and arrest thieves when elections are approaching, simply because elections are approaching. You see, they should get, you see, I want a robust opposition that I can engage. PDP has not provided one
Right,
yet.
okay, I won't take on that much more because I'm being told that we're virtually out of time. Finally, Minister, and I thank you very much for giving us the time. Insecurity across the northeast and the middle belt, separatist groups galore in both the north and the south, the ruling APC party, whether you deny it or not, locked in internecine battles, the economy still limping. To a foreigner, it looks like an escalating epic of despair. To you, as Minister of Information, what does it look like?
Clearly, you have learned nothing from this interview, because it's the same bias you are repeating.
I'm asking you a question.
No, I'm answering your question
You're
too.
not answering.
I'm answering.
You're taking digs at me.
No, sir. No, sir. Because I explained to you what progress we've made in combating Boko Haram.
That's why I asked you, given all of that,
what
does it look like to
me,
you? What does it look like? Because let's face it, Nigeria is not out of the woods yet.
Look, I will repeat myself again. I've taken each issue you have raised. Herdsmen, farmers clashes, I've told you exactly that we are winning that war. Boko Haram, I explained to you that, probably you didn't ask Boko Haram as such, that what we inherited in 29th of May was a territory the size of Lebanon under the effective occupation of Boko Haram. Today, we have not one single inch.
Right, we have all that on record.
Very good.
Just a final word from you going forward.
Yeah.
What is your message to the Nigerian people who are still despondent about the state of the country?
They should just continue to support this administration, because we are doing our best to ensure that we deliver a country which is safe for all to live in, a country which will be prosperous, and that all the indices that we have seen so far have shown that our methods and our approach, they are working.
Minister, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Very honored. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your patience and your forensic response to my questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You've been watching a special edition of Arise News Hour. Here, it's Democracy Day in Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Bye-bye.